I recently received an email from my dear friend Mike Cohn. I love receiving his emails each week. So thank you, Mike, for continuing to send good information. This week he talks about 3 ways to handle unfinished work that will occasionally be left over by even a great agile team. So he starts off with number one here. So let's give you number one. Number one says, if you want a guarantee, buy a toaster. My first bit of advice of how to handle unfinished work is to remember that even the best agile teams sometimes miss their goal. And that's okay, and even desirable to a certain extent. Now, this is going to be interesting. Sprint goals are not a guarantee. As Clint Eastwood's character Nick Pulovski says in The Rookie, if you want a guarantee, buy a toaster. Leaders, stakeholders, and even the team themselves might need an occasional reminder about this. A team's commitment to a sprint goal is a promise to do its best to achieve that goal. If team members are perpetually forced instead to make a guarantee, they will guarantee less in order to remain safe. Sometimes a team doesn't need to make a guarantee. There might be times where a client or customer needs a capability by a certain date. The finance group may need to run year-end reports in early January, for example. In general, though, we don't want to force a team into a guarantee. We ask a team to commit to something reasonable, and then we're understanding if they miss it. Falling short of an occasional commitment is not a failure. It's usually a sign of bad luck or a team that's striving to really do too much. I was just about to say, Mike, you kind of took words out of my mouth here, that there's a difference between meeting a sprint goal and finishing everything in a sprint. And I think that sometimes when leadership hears sprint goal, and they automatically tie it to sprint commitment, and then they tie that to guarantee. It's one of these things where they believe guarantee and goal are synonymous because they both start with G. And that's just simply not the case, right? It's the same as when organizations say that they want to do priority, but then they say priority equals importance. And we all know that everything is important, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's high priority. You could have things that are really important with varying degrees of urgency. So it's another one of those conundrums where you see people get caught in a roll-up of what words mean. So for me, the best strategy is exactly what you described. If a team is striving to take on too much, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll say, it's okay to take on a little less so that you can meet a commitment. But at the same time, don't be afraid to go get a head start on the first item in the next sprint so that you can keep that flow moving and eventually even overwhelm or not overwhelm, but you can impress. That was the word I was looking for. The leadership and the stakeholders who are looking and really make them say, wow, that team's really putting in the effort. All right, let's go to number 2. Oh, amen, brother. Don't roll work over or forward automatically. My second bit of advice is to resist the urge to automatically roll over unfinished work into the next sprint. Put it back in a product backlog instead. The item may be back on a product backlog for a millisecond, but there should be a conscious decision by the product owner to continue to work on it or stop where we are. Logistically, I don't care if it's easier for your tool or choice to move the item to the next sprint rather than back into the backlog first. The key is there's a decision to continue moving forward with that work. If the product owner decides the team should work on a partly finished work immediately in the next sprint, bring it in as is. Don't re-estimate it. Don't rename it. Don't take partial velocity points credit for it. Just bring the item into the next sprint. Take the full velocity credit when it's complete. Simple, easy peasy. But if the item is deferred for a later sprint, go ahead and split that story into what makes sense. Take partial velocity credit for the work that you completed last sprint, and then write a new story that describes the missing or outstanding functionality and estimate that story for a later sprint. Okay, I get it. I think that makes sense. For me, once again, though, the big thing is if it's something big, break it down, right? Break it down into small chunks. Even if you think you can't break it down, chances are you can break it down. So I've been remiss trying to find work that I couldn't break down. There are things that certainly can be broken down. The only time I've ever had a situation where I couldn't break something down was part of a mission control sequence when I was doing work with SpaceX that just couldn't be broken down into smaller pieces. But outside of sending rockets into space, I've been able to pretty adequately break things down. So breaking things down into smaller pieces, eliminating the need to try to take partial velocity credit, and limiting scope of work in progress is going to solve that. And then number 3 is document the cause. My final bit of advice for dealing with unfinished work is this. Whenever work is unfinished at the end of a sprint, the team should take time in a retrospect to consider whether it was preventable or whether it was inevitable. Sometimes unfinished work is just bad luck or bad timing, such as a team member being ill or a problem that was found late in the sprint that couldn't have been found earlier, it could not have been found earlier and couldn't have been addressed earlier. Sometimes just a result of aiming too high for a single sprint. But you may uncover something that is becoming a bad habit. Whatever the cause, it's always important and worth considering whether something can be done to prevent it going forward, affecting future sprints so that your team can succeed with Agile. The term for this that I like to use, Mike, is hidden factory. If you keep making the same mistakes over and over again because you didn't document what the mistake was, you're literally just dumping money into something that's hidden that's going to take over your budget over time. So for me, it's just incredibly important for the team to make sure they understand what caused the hidden factory, what caused this to happen, and to make sure it's preventable in the future if at all possible. Thanks again, Mike, for your wonderful email. That's going to do it for this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.